to see where they are today. Today our topic is about Jane Elliot, a school teacher who ran a very interesting exercise back in the day. This unique 2-day social experiment was run by Elliot in her 3rd grade classroom to prove the implications of discrimination and racism plaguing our country at the time. She wanted to show her pupils what discrimination feels like and what people can do about it today. Today I am pleased to announce to the stage Jane Elliot, the mind behind the 1968 experiment, A Class Divided, or better known as the Brown Eye versus Blue Eyes experiment. Please welcome Jane Elliot. Jane, thank you so much for coming on to our show this afternoon. We're pleased to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Bree. I'm excited to be here and share what I learned by conducting this diversity exercise nearly 58 years ago, which has still received so much publicity today.
Jane, why don't we start off by asking you a little bit about yourself?
Well, you see, I was a 3rd grade teacher in a very small white Catholic town of Riceville, Iowa, for much of my life. But now I'm working to bring awareness on prejudice and racism throughout my foundation in various forms, along with my famous exercise, of which I still replicate today in different places.
Well, we are very happy to have you here on our show. Many of our viewers have been asking us to question you about your famous experiment. Before we get to the study itself, what prompted you to even want to conduct this exercise?
See, the zeitgeist of the time happened to be the day after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., and my stomach was sick. I did not know how I would share the news with my students that one of their heroes of the month back in February was killed by a society partially due to the color of his skin. The United States was in turmoil with its own people. I decided that something needed to be done here in my classroom in order to emphasize the impact of discrimination and prejudice. I asked my students if they knew how it felt to be treated different based on the color of their skin. They said they understood what it was like to be treated differently, so I brought up the idea of a class exercise where we would be judging people based on the color of their eyes. And my children agreed. They hooted and hollered and said it'd be fun.
Well, wow. What prompted you to choose eye color instead of, say, maybe hair color or even gender?
I decided to pick a physical characteristic to which they had no control over. Eye color and skin color are caused by the same chemical, melanin, so it seemed perfect.
Wow, that's very interesting. I never knew that. Can you explain to us how you began completing this experiment?
Well, first off, I would like to correct you and say that what happened in my class was not an experiment, it was an exercise.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I would never perform an experiment on children. Instead, what we did was a class exercise. On the first day, we agreed that the blue-eyed people were superior to those with brown eyes. And then on the second day, it would be reversed.
So after you established these rules within your classroom, how, with just one statement, did the students begin to discriminate and bully the others with brown eyes?
On day 1, after declaring that blue-eyed kids were superior, I decided that those students with the brown eyes would be subjected to the discrimination African Americans faced in America at that time.
Oh, wow.
Brown-eyed kids were told they were stupid and filthy. They were not allowed to use the same water fountains or play together with the blue-eyed children during recess. I believe that the biggest difference, and thus the biggest divider for the children, was the collars I had the brown-eyed children wear. This physical representation of their differences really spurred the children into separating into groups of oppressed and oppressors. After this, the blue-eyed children began to tease and ridicule the children with brown eyes. This was then reversed on day 2, and the brown-eyed students were superior, in which we saw the same effect to the children with blue eyes.
I truly don't really have any words. It's just crazy that in such a short amount of time within your classroom, you were able to see such hatred form before your very eyes from the kids that you know best. I can't imagine how this must have made you feel.
I can't even begin to express my emotions as I watched as best friends turned against each other and fights break out between all of the students. I watched what had been marvelous, cooperative, wonderful, thoughtful children turn into nasty, vicious, discriminating little 3rd graders in a span of 15 minutes. In this very moment, I realized that I'd created a replication of society within my very own 3rd grade classroom.
Well, Jane, we figured what better way to get this impact, the brown versus the blue eyes experiment, than to watch a clip from the experiment itself.
How are black people treated? How are Indians treated? How are people who are of a different color than we are treated?
They're part of this world. They don't get anything in this world.
Why is that?
Because they're different color.
You think you know how that would feel to be judged by the color of your skin?
Yeah.
Do you think you do? No, I don't think you'd know how that felt unless you had been through it, would you? It might be interesting to judge people today by the color of their eyes. Would you like to try this?
Yeah.
Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Since I'm the teacher and I have blue eyes, I think maybe the blue-eyed people should be on top the first day.
Up here? Up here?
I mean, the blue-eyed people are the better people in this room. Oh, yes, they are. Blue-eyed people are smarter than brown-eyed people.
My dad isn't that stupid.
Is your dad brown-eyed?
Yeah.
One day you came to school and you told us that he kicked you.
He did.
Do you think a blue-eyed father would kick his son?
Yeah. My
dad's blue-eyed. He's never kicked me. Greg's dad is blue-eyed. He's never kicked him. Rex's dad is blue-eyed. He's never kicked him. This is a fact. Blue-eyed people are better than brown-eyed people. Are you brown-eyed or blue-eyed?
Blue.
Why are you shaking your head?
Had it full.
Are you sure that you're right? Why? What makes you so sure that you're right?
I don't know.
The blue-eyed people get 5 extra minutes of recess, while the brown-eyed people have to stay in. The brown-eyed people do not get to use the drinking fountain. You'll have to use the paper cups. You brown-eyed people are not to play with the blue-eyed people on the playground because you are not as good as blue-eyed people. Well, the brown-eyed people in this room today are going to wear collars so that we can tell from a distance what color your eyes are. On page 127. 127. Is everyone ready? Everyone but Laurie. Ready, Laurie?
Brown-eyed.
She's a brown-eyed. You'll begin to notice today that we spend a great deal of time waiting for brown-eyed people. The yardstick's gone. Well, okay. I don't see the yardstick, do you?
It's coming over there. Hey, Miss Knight, you better keep that on your desk so if the brown-eyed people get out of hand.
Oh! You think if the brown-eyed people get out of hand, that would be the thing to use? Who goes first to lunch?
Blue-eyed.
The blue-eyed people. No brown-eyed people go back for seconds. Blue-eyed people may go back for seconds. Brown-eyed people do not.
Brown-eyed.
Don't you know?
Oh, they're not smart.
Is that the only reason?
Oh my goodness, ladies! I can't believe you're here. It's so good to see you guys again.
So good to see you too. Why, hello there, everyone. It's so nice to be here. I'm Verla. Hi there, everybody. I'm happy to be on the show. I am Sandra from Miss Elliot's experiment back in the day.
As you can tell, we're so happy to have you all here on our show today. Earlier in the show, Miss Elliot was here describing the motives behind and throughout the experiment, but the viewers want to hear from you how being a part of this has influenced your own views on discrimination and has shaped your life.
Well, first and foremost, we learned pretty quickly that nobody likes to be looked down upon. Nobody likes to be hated, teased, or discriminated against, that's for sure.
And how about you, Sandra?
Well, I was a brown-eyed participant, and I recall hearing these people talking about different people and how they'd like to have them out of the country. And sometimes I just wish I had that collar in my pocket. I could take it out and put it on and say, wear this and put yourself in their place. I wish they would go through what I went through, you know.
Thank you so much for sharing your takeaway from this exercise. On an even bigger scale, how do you think the Riceville community was impacted by this?
Not say it was positive by very many means. In Riceville, as my family and I were targeted and even beat up on more than one occasion. It was swift, harsh, and negative reactions by many.
Although this impacted me at one time positively, I remember my mother complaining to other moms as to how they could harm us by making us participate in this during school.
This emotional learning experience has helped shape me into the person I am today. I cannot unlearn this or forget how to view others respectfully today, which I carry with myself at all times.
How do you two feel when you were a part of the out group?
Boy, that day when I got home, I found out what it was like to hate somebody.
You hated me?
Yeah, of what you were putting us through, nobody likes to be looked down upon. Nobody likes to be hated, teased, or discriminated against.
Well, was the learning worth the agony that you guys went through?
Oh, definitely.
How has this exercise changed the way you act today?
I've been teaching my children not to hate, and even if they see other people discriminated and ridiculed, I hope they would say, well, Mom and Dad like the black people, I'm gonna like them too.
I still find myself sometimes when I see people together and watch how they act, I find myself thinking, well, they're black, because that's how I was raised, you know. But the next second, before I even finished with that, I say, well, I've seen whites do it. I've seen other people do it. It's not just the blacks. It's just the different skin colors that hit you first. Before I even finish the first thought, I'm reminded of you and how you taught us that everyone acts the same.
This exercise not only impacted the two of you, Verla and Sandra, but also millions of others too. Jane, how do you still spread the knowledge about racism and prejudice within discrimination today?
Well, you see, today I am still known as the lady on a mission for one race, the human one. I am a lecturer, diversity trainer, and still make it my life mission to expose prejudice and bigotry for what it is. Merely an irrational class system based upon purely arbitrary factors. And if you think it doesn't apply to you, you're in for a rude awakening.
Wow. So if there's one thing that you want to leave us with today, what is it?
If you take away one thing, let it be that prejudice is an emotional commitment to ignorance. It is so important to view life powerlessly. We still shouldn't be fighting the same battles we were nearly 50 years ago today.
Well, I'd like to take a moment here to thank all of you for being here with us today, the impact you've made on society as we know it. This concludes this episode of Where Are They Now? Thanks for joining us today, and please tune in next week.